So the first question, just to jump right in, that I'm going to ask to Father John and to ask to but Nancy. Nancy and Father John are two guests tonight. Is this question. You have both met, neither one of you have met Father Giussani. Both of you have met what I would refer to as children of Father Giussani, people who knew Giussani personally. And your lives both have been marked. Your lives have both been changed. You're very good friends of mine. I know you well. Father John's obviously a priest and a pastor. Amy lives in Los Angeles and works for works with disabled veterans. And so both people their lives have been marked. So I'd like you to share a little bit why and how this encounter with people who knew Giussani changed your life. So how about if we start with you, Father John, since you're already unmuted.
Thanks, Holly, and thanks, Nancy. Thanks, everyone that's joined us. I thought the ending of the video really explained my beginning with the movement and meeting Father Giussani when he says, I can be dissolved, but the text left behind and the uninterrupted succession, if God wills, of the people indicate as the true hermeneutics and interpretation of what happened to me. And when I heard that, I thought, that's it. That's why I could meet this man. I went to the seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota, and loved the seminary. And one of the things I really loved about it was in class, I would be studying different things or going through Aquinas or something. And really unintentionally, I would be looking at what I was reading and comparing it to my life. And I'd have these moments where I'd be like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. And I'd look around and all my classmates would be like zoning out, and they knew something was happening to me, but they had no idea its relevance. So I created a group of people in the seminary where after these things would happen to me, I'd go over to their house or over to their room and we'd talk about it. And then they'd share with me what happened to them in their week. And I grew to love this. And as my time in seminary was coming to a close, I began to have a sadness that I was going to lose this. And I was going to lose singing, and I was going to lose living in community with these men. And but I had a friend who was outside of the Catholic Church, and I met outside of seminary. And the more we became friends, the more I felt like he needed the Catholic Church. He was looking for the Catholic Church, and I couldn't figure out how to transmit to him this life. And one of the things I recognized is the reason my life was so vibrant was because I was living it in the seminary with all these people. And I needed to find a people that he could meet Catholicism through. And someone had mentioned to me CL one time, and it sort of seemed intriguing. So I sort of hunted it down, found out it was meeting in St. Paul, and he agreed to go. And I was kind of surprised, but I was like, God's lining this all up. Hook, line, and sinker. This guy's, gonna be caught by the Catholic Church. And so the morning of the School of Community, I didn't know what it was called at the time, the morning of the meeting, he backed out. And I thought to myself, I think he's afraid. He's afraid of what he's going to encounter. And if I go, I can understand what they do, and then I can explain it to him, and he'll be less afraid. If I don't go, then we're in the same spot. And so I decided to go. And I went to this house one night on Summit Avenue. If you can think of the Great Gatsby, I went to one of the third story of this huge mansion, and there was just dozens of kids up, young people up there. And they were eating together, and then they started reading this book and talking about their life. And somebody started asking them questions. And suddenly I thought, what are these people? These people are doing what I like to do. and all of a sudden it hit me. This place isn't for my friend. These people are for me. And I have been at School of Community every week since that night. And this has become a place in which Christ has truly changed me.
Wow, thank you, Father John. That is I'm very inspired and moved, and it was a gift to be able to go second to just hear that from you. I'm sorry, I'm so moved. I have to say hi to my mom. My mom is on. Hi, Mom. So anyway, we'll keep going. But it was really, it's this movement of the heart that you see happening in me, trying to respond, following Father John and seeing my mom a part of this. It's this totally unexpected, totally not able to be planned beauty and love that just enter your life exactly as I am, with all of my history, with all of my personality, that it's overwhelmingly wonderful. And I can say to you today, it's the same overwhelmingly wonderful beauty and love that I find. And this being moved is something I say, thank you, Father Giussani, for highlighting and amplifying. It's not just a sentiment and a feeling. It is that, but it's not only that. And I am not only these feelings and these ways I move, my MO, my modus operandi. I'm not only this way I go about life. It's true what the Bible says, when two or more are gathered in my name, I'm there. And it's true today. And that this is what I've met. It was at work, who I also see on the phone call. Hi, Guido, thanks for being here. But I met Guido at work. We shared a wall of a cubicle at Walt Disney Company. And with all of the normal politics and Hollywood entertainment things that go on in a movie studio, but this is animated, so it's a little bit more closer to PG sometimes. You have all of this life around you, and you have this person who becomes your friend, and I can't explain it. I can't explain. In the beginning, I couldn't explain why he was different. I couldn't explain it. I just knew he was. And, you know, I wasn't Catholic at the time. And I eventually converted to Catholicism, but so I asked that same question that Father John asked, which is kind of the same question. My question was, is this really for me? Is this really all of these people, all of this openness of my heart that keeps happening? Is this really for me? Is this really the way Christ is finding me today? I mean, my mom, you did such a good job, Mom, raising us in the faith. I mean, when I describe my childhood, I had so much fun with my church friends. We weren't weird and we weren't nerds. We just had so much fun. And I grew up in a small town, so you could do like scavenger hunts with like cars and like leaving clues around the town without getting in trouble, and it wasn't dangerous. We had so much fun together, and it was the way that I would come to know a community of believers. And so as I grew up, and now I'm an adult, it's that point in the video that I love where Giussani is talking about the bud that flowers, that comes up in the spring. And it's this rebirth, this restarting that I identify with so much, that because of life in Jesus Christ, through your friends, through a community of believers, you can start again. There is no sin that I have committed that is too great for God's mercy that I see through my friends. And it's not that the friends are perfect, but it's actually like, because we're all so imperfect, that you see everybody can start again, and everybody can gain a new awareness of themselves and of others. And this is conversion. I mean, this is what the Bible talks about, conversion happening in front of my eyes. And meeting, then I would meet Christina, I would meet Holly, I would meet Maro, all of these people. And I remember I wanted to get to know them, not only as a group, but individually. So I'd ask them, can I have lunch with you? Can I hear your story? Much like what we're doing right now. And I was blown away by the difference of circumstance, as well as the this desire in the heart that there is still something good and beautiful for them in their life and in the lives of those around them. So they were able to keep walking. I mean, I would also say thank you, Father Giussani, for enabling me to live a beautiful life, walking, making mistakes, trying, risking, learning, etc., and not always allowing my measure of what I think is success and failure to be the final word. And I have so much gratitude. So thank you even for letting me participate, Holly.
Thank you. We're going to switch gears just a teeny bit, and then we'll open up a little bit for questions. But we're going to watch the video, or at least part of the video, the trailer of the video, just to give us some context for the next point. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Sorry. I do this every single day for work, and sometimes I forget how I did it. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Ma chi è Don Giussani?
Diocesi di Milano. Non può immaginare un problema più grande per la sua libertà. Cristo, sì o no? Sempre rimasto nella sua gravità di profeta, di uomo dei miracoli. Donna, non piangere, disse, e le restituire figlio. Ma disse più la donna, non piangere. Un uomo che non viva un momento così con la sua donna, non ha mai amato la sua donna, mai. Un padre ed una madre sono tali non solo perché danno latte prima e risotto dopo al figlio che cresce, ma un padre e una madre danno loro stessi, un padre dà sé stesso al figlio. Un mio padre, quando accanto al mio letto, mi raccontava la parabola del ricco e pulone. Lui era un socialista accanito, perciò tutte le sere ricco e pulone.
Perché l'aspettavano così?
Perché credo in quello che dico.
Questo e basta?
Sì.
So yeah, that's just a taste of what this video is this 50-minute video can give you. It's all Giussani, it's all his life, etc. But the next question I have for both you, Father John, and for Nancy is, what is about the video that maybe struck you, stood out? Any scene in the whole video that you watched? And Father John, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think connected to what Nancy said and what was just played there was a part where he says this dialogue, a person who matures to a point that they can say you. And he says when the I discovers itself saying you, when a man in front of a person he didn't know for the first time in his life acquires this maturation that he can say you. And when he talks about the mother and father giving themselves, I was really moved by recognizing then even like the particularities particularities of how my mother and father like gave themselves for the sake of me. And Nancy, you mentioning your mother being here, my mother and I had a very fun but engaging friendship in our lives. usually me wanting to say I want space, and her saying no space. And she lived in her last years in a nursing facility, and I would go visit her once in a while and talk to her and stuff. But usually I wanted to be really honest with her, and I sometimes could be a little blunt. But I walked in on her one time having an argument with a nurse, and she sort of felt ashamed, I think, that she got caught, or that like I had seen her like this. And in a surprise, I had a great affection for her, and I just walked with her into her room, and she sat down in her chair, and she sort of was like quiet, and then all of a sudden she just started divulging all of her history and so much of her past and all of this stuff. And I just started saying a few things to her. I didn't say much. And she stops like stone cold, and she looks at me and she says, "I want to go to a place where people speak like you." And I thought, no, you can't come to school community, can you? But it was a moment where I said, I knew that this was not merely my mother, that this was not merely me, that you are inviting me, you are present to me and saying, can I come into your home through the face of my mother? And I had to say yes. And my mother from that day started coming to school community. She had a walker and she has air, mask things. And she was a real part of the community in a way that wasn't easy for me, but I just couldn't deny that something's happening here. And she one day was reading the fraternity exercises, and at the back of it, when it talks about the common fund, it says, this is a way to belong. And she lit up. And she was like, you mean all I have to do is contribute money once a month and I belong to Communion Liberation? And she said, I want to give $70 every month. Well, she's on Medicaid. All she gets every month is $70. And I was so struck by this gesture, and I realized like the you that Giussani has taught me to say that this video speaks about is something that happens in our life. And so it really has resonated deeply with me. And I think, Nancy, it's not an accident that you spoke of your mom here on this gathering.
That makes me think of the gospel when she put everything she had into the offertory, and how much that gets reminded today in our world. I love Giussani as a younger man teaching, and as the playing and the games outside. And he has a very strong opinion. He's from North Italy, and for those of you who also know some friends from North Italy, you get the whole strong opinion. I have yet to meet the opposite in a North Italian, especially someone associated with the movement. So it brought back so many fun memories of the vacations and playing games together outside, and cheating and not cheating, and the rules and what are the rules. And you sometimes played the most complicated games you've ever played in your entire life, but you were so happy to try to play. And so I love that full engagement with life in his way and with his personality, growing up as he did. I love also when he talks about his parents and his father being a socialist. I am impressed that Giussani could valorize almost probably anything. I mean, anything. And that's, when you think about that, if you think about yourself, and when I think about myself, that's a challenge. I can't do that. I cannot find something valorizing about everything I encounter, and every person, every circumstance. And I think that example that he showed over and over again, that ability to listen. I love the conversation in the park, which was for an interview with the woman. And I'm just a priest. This is how he thinks of himself. And the humility there and the very down to earth, being able to relate. I think if I had met him, I often think to myself, if I met him, he would be kind of gruff, but he would be one of those people that you love so much, because he's saying the truth, and he's saying, this is for you too, and you can verify this. The last point I would say is the ability to verify the proposal of community liberation. For me, it talks a lot about that in the Journey to Truth as an Experience. That's a text he had of dialogues with younger high school people. It was a game changer, to say the least, to be able to verify that the 100-fold can be mine now, in my life, in my circumstances, as I am. No prerequisites. I ask so many people along the path, well, do I need to do something else? Nope, just go to school community, read school community 5 minutes a day. Pray, of course, but nope, there's no prereqs for this. There's nothing you have to do to qualify to engage and understand where, based on my experience where I'm at, there's nothing I need to add in to where I'm at. In time, you start to have a great appreciation and you start adding in things. Life of the Saints, for example. I just read a beautiful book about Josephine Bakita, the Saint of Sudan. Amazing story. Her feast day was just recent. So this curiosity that he displays throughout the video, Holly, I think they've captured that very well. And I recognize that in my life now, and I recognize in your life, Holly, I recognize it in other friends, this curiosity of what is this piece of reality in front of me, and what is Jesus trying to say to me through this?
Beautiful. Thank you. You both, in talking, shared the surprise of meeting somebody, right? You met somebody who Father, you sent your friend to school community, and you encountered this group unexpectedly. And same with you, Nancy, the Guido on the other side of the wall at your work. And somebody asked me recently how I met Father Giussani, and it was absolutely the same. It was, it could have been anywhere, but I was traveling in Italy. It was way back in 1984 when he was very well at that time. And I had, very long story short, I'd gone with some girlfriends after college, after we graduated, to just travel. And we had stayed the night at a friend's house, an American friend, in this little dinky podunk town, Imola. And the next door neighbor came over and invited us to go out with a bunch of young people our age. And these young people were of CL. So that led to, 2 months of enjoying their company and time to go home, and me deciding not to go home, instead spending the next 2 years of my life in Italy, and many encounters with Father Giussani after that. I was one of the only Americans who knew the movement at that time. And so I think he was a little intrigued by me, but also we became dear friends. And so I do remember very clearly that first meeting with him, because you speak about curiosity, both of you, your mother, John, and also your own curiosity, Nancy. But when I met him, I was waiting outside of his office, and in this place where he had an office at a Sacro Cuore, and some friends of mine had gone up for a meeting with him, and they asked me if I'd like to go. And I didn't even remember who he was. He's the author of the book we're reading. Yes. So I ended up meeting him. He stepped out and introduced himself, and I introduced myself, and my Italian was just very cursory at that time. And again, that gaze on me was not, I'm curious because you're like tall and you're clearly not Italian, but you for who you are. And every single time I met him, and I think many on this call could say the same thing, you were in the room with him and he was in the room with you. Didn't matter if it were 1,000 people around you or if you were in the room by yourself with him. Another just brief incident. I went back and forth for about 25 years to Italy, and every summer I spent some time with him. And one day we were at lunch and with 2 other people, and they were all this, array of food on the table, and there was a plate of onions. There were sliced onions. And I reached up to the onions and I grabbed them. I put a bunch on my plate and put it back. And he went, "Oh, you like onions?" And I was like completely embarrassed because the girl next to me said, "We cut that up for him." And I was like, "Yes, I do." And I had no idea. I was super embarrassed. Like, "You want it back?" "Oh, beautiful." And so he's like giving me more onions. So, I mean, just that sense of you are the most dear thing in the whole world right now, even though I'm surrounded by other people who are completely more interesting than you, I would think. So anyway, we're going to change gears here and open it up to questions. So you can ask a question in a couple of ways. One, you raise your real hand. You can raise a digital hand if you can figure that out. A lot of people don't know how to do that, so that's fine. Just raise your hand. And we have two tech assistants today, Jackie, fabulous, and Lisa. Wave your hands. So these gentle giants have done an amazing job all day. We've had multiple encounters, so thank you, ladies. So they'll call you out and let me know you got your hand up. So would anyone like to ask a question of our discussants today, or just share a comment, or anything move you want to add? Okay, I am not seeing any questions or comments, so we might be cutting out a little bit early tonight. I just want to ask you to please consider watching the entire video. It is 100% Giussani. It's a montage of different times in his life, just what you saw. But I think what you saw was just a taste of the man. I did have one question today on one of the other Zoom calls, like, how do you know this isn't personalism? And I think watching the video, you understand that it's not personalism, but you have to make that judgment because clearly everything pointed back to Christ. Everything he did, everything he said, always pointed back to Christ.